About 2.5 minutes left from this game ending. Actually, Washington just had another huge run as they're trying to just kind of run down the clock here. But, today was as much of an unmitigated disaster as it could have possibly been. Right now, the current score with, getting to the 2-minute warning here is 21-6. The Giants couldn't convert. But let's talk about this one and what happened. I think, the biggest thing was just the offensive line looked absolutely dreadful. Let's just go through everything. But, kudos to my original thoughts here are kudos to the Commanders. They picked up right where they left off after their last season. Jaden Daniels, no sophomore slump incoming for him right off the bat here. So, this was a tough task for the Giants who really, after all of the hype of the offseason, didn't really do anything, the D-line was okay, but let's just go through everything. Let's get started talking about the offense and Russell Wilson, who's finished 17 for 37, 168 yards, was only sacked twice for 11 yards. Obviously, he was pressured way more than that. The offensive line looked absolutely dreadful compared to how they normally look. They look dreadful for how they always look, really. But it was just thought we would see a little bit of an improvement. Obviously, Andrew Thomas was out again, and who knows when he's coming back. But I think the thing for him, is at this point you can't rush him back, but it's also like the Giants need to win games now. And they didn't pass their first test. Yeah, Omega, thanks for joining, bro. This is awful. Giant Shred setting in. Yeah, I'm already pretty depressed about that one. But yeah, when you think about it, we had the offensive line really just picked up exactly where they left off last year in terms of sucking. Hudson had a couple of penalties, Luminire, false starts. Van Roten looked good, but Runyon and John Michael both, giving up big plays early on in the game. Doesn't bode well for them. Embo came in. He got beat across his face on the goal line and got absolutely Scatabo killed and almost kind of took him out as well. And Scatabo ran into him. It was just kind of ultimately a shit show in the red zone on that series where they had 7 plays and came away with nothing. That kind of really set the tone for the game. So this offense has really picked up exactly where they left off last year. Another thing there is just got the little baby here, but red zone play calling in the preseason, they were able to have a lot of conversions within the red zone. And I said this early during those games. It's like, can we just save these for the actual game, for the actual season, which they didn't do. I was expecting a little bit more from the rushing attack. Tyrone Tracy Jr., 10 for 24. Scatabo, 2 for -3. But Scatabo did add 2 for 12 receiving. Just an absolute brutal start for this offense in every way, shape, or form. Neighbors just constantly beat, he went 5 for 71 on 12 targets, which is kind of insane. But just on the sideline crying and, Dable is just doing so much people management just to keep neighbors happy. They're just showing the slow motion of him crying with the towel over his head right now. But, yeah, the defense, I'll get to the defense in a little bit. But, this offense, man, you go back to Kafka calling the plays, which honestly, the whole, setup and everything looked very similar to what they did with Brian Dable at the helm of play calling last year. So, really, there's no excuses. There's no one to be like, there's no defense of anyone. It just looked bad across the board. Wandell was trying, but, they never throw it. He had a long of 20, but went 6 for 55, and it's all these dinking passes. That fourth down, they go 5 wide, and the ball gets. Russell Wilson has to do that sidearm throw, and it just it's a lot of stuff like that throughout this game that just added up, especially with the offense not being able to get clicking in any way, shape, or form. And the tone was set. John Runyon, before the season started, said, hey, I want the offensive line to be leaders on this team and to be tone setters. Complete opposite of that today that we saw. They couldn't do anything. They kind of set the tone for the Commanders' defense, which really wasn't that good last season. And then to start this year, they make them look like world beaters and make it look like, oh, we brought in Von Miller. We did all these great things. And clearly it paid dividends because, their defense essentially, pits a shutout with no touchdowns surrendered in the NFL and 7 plays within like the 10-yard line at one point. So credit is where credit's due, but the Giants got to be better. Theo Johnson, for example, really didn't like anything I saw from him too much today. Bellinger had the catch at the end. I think Bellinger should probably be tight end 1 on this team. I don't understand what they love about Theo Johnson. Is he the problem? Not really, but he had 2 drops, and then he also missed his assignment on that 7 plays within the 10, where he just didn't get the pick done properly, and Bobby Wagner got it under and made the play to stop it. So, everyone, this could just be the problem with, maybe not practicing hard. And also, I drank the Kool-Aid this offseason. I'm sure you guys did too, but it was just nonstop of like, hey, we're going to be good. We're getting better, X, Y, and Z. And then when you look at 21-6, and this is, the Washington was good last year, but, I wanted to see a little bit more competition. And then, getting to the defensive side, like, I think they did do a decent job of making some plays, at least like the edge rushers and the DNs. I think Brian Burns had a great game. Sucks we lost Micah McFadden early on in this one because I was expecting a big season out of him. I hope he's okay and can make a comeback this year, but it seemed pretty bad when you get the card out there first drive week 1. And then, Carter, they used him pretty sparingly, I thought. A lot of rotation, and then just trying to, they had him on special teams on the punt blocks, which he did have the punt block. But the craziest thing about that punt block was it still went 31 yards, and that was with it blocked. Jamie Gillen has been trying, as the Giants punter, the Scottish Hammer, to punt it as good as he can, and he had a punt that went 35 yards in this. That was clean and him trying his best. So the Giants have issues kind of all across the board at this point. Obviously, I'm not a huge Jamie Gillen fan, and, Omega's been on the channel for a couple of years now, so he knows that, but today was an awful, pathetic effort from his point. So what do you guys think? I know I just went on my 7.5-minute long-winded rant there to get started, but, no turnovers again for the Giants. Russell Wilson doesn't have any interceptions himself, but, it seems like we're just buckling up for a really long season as the Commanders are currently in victory formation. They're going to move to 1-0. They have a short week coming up this week versus, I believe, the Packers on Thursday night. That's a pretty big game. I didn't hear Sexy Dexy's name at all. Yeah, have to agree with you there. Little bit of a light performance from his side from what I was thinking. Maybe he's not 100% coming back off the injury. Also, it looked to be kind of like a hot day. I know it was raining a little bit, but maybe the humidity was pretty high down in Maryland. So, and who knows? Like, these guys don't practice that hard. The defense was looking gassed right off the bat, but, like, they're going to have to get, their lungs underneath them and be able to, play longer in games without gassing out. But, I mean, I don't necessarily think Dexy was the problem, but again, 2 things, right? 2 big trends for this one that we saw was we can't stop the run, and then not being able to stop the run, and the O-line sucking. And those were 2 things we knew we had to fix. And the Giants knew that they had to fix because it was on tape last year and the last 2 years, and they didn't fix any of it. Where was Thibodeau today? Yeah, he had that one good play on the read option that he just came inside and kind of blew it up. But besides that, he kind of, you see what he does a lot of, and he's done this his entire career. He runs upfield so hard and heavy that he takes himself out of plays, right? And quarterbacks could step up underneath it. Running backs could get right through. is kind of the offensive lineman just let him go upfield and outside as far as he can. Like, I'm surprised more coordinators don't bake in halfback draws to that extent or something just quickly underneath, because you can bait him upfield so quickly. But what did he finish with? Yeah, it sounds like there's Giants fans in this house today with all the crying going on. Thibodeau finished 2 tackles, 1 solo, half sack, and a TFL. But I don't know. It just seems all so bad. It just seems so bad across the board. And it just, after all the hype and everything that was supposed to happen this year, here we are, 0-1, not an offensive touchdown, just a brutal performance. What else? What else could we talk about here? All right. Well, I might have to wrap this up. Wanted to go a little bit longer, but have some stuff going on. Everyone's devastated after this Giants loss. So we will be back. I'll do a breakdown and post it later today or tomorrow. Anyway, thank you guys for joining. Hopefully, Giants could bounce back next week versus the Cowboys. What time's that game? 1 o'clock in Jerry's World. Cowboys had a bad loss. It didn't look that bad themselves, even though they lost. They traded away Micah Parsons. So let's see what happens. Thanks for watching. Have a great rest of your Sunday. Don't let the Giants ruin it. We still have 17 more weeks. Peace.